I can't do this anymore, Ava said, her voice flat, like she'd rehearsed it 100 times. I stared at her across the small table, the half-empty coffee mug between us growing cold. Can't do what? Talk. Wait for me to get back on my feet. What exactly are you done with, Ava? Her eyes didn't meet mine. With all of this. With you. My stomach twisted. You're serious? I tried, okay. But you're not the same person anymore. You're always stressed, always tired. You lost your job, your dad's in the hospital, and what? I cut in, my voice breaking. And that makes me unworthy now. She sighed, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Don't make this harder than it already is. I laughed bitterly. Harder for who? You. You get to walk away while I'm drowning, and you're the one struggling. Stop twisting my words, she said sharply. I need to focus on myself. I can't carry this anymore. You're not carrying anything, I said quietly. I was the one fighting for us. She finally looked up, and her eyes were colder than I'd ever seen. You're holding me back, Ethan. I need to move forward. Her words hit me like a knife. I blinked, unsure if I'd heard her right. Holding you back, I repeated, my voice shaking. I gave you everything I had. And that's the problem, she whispered. You have nothing left to give. For a long moment, I just sat there, unable to breathe. The sounds around us, people talking, coffee machines hissing, blurred into static. She stood, her chair scraping the floor, and before I could say another word, she was gone. I don't remember walking out. I only remember standing in the cold night air, staring at my reflection in the cafe window. I looked like a ghost, tired eyes, pale face, hope drained. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Ethan. Man, where are you? He asked. I just got off work. How's your dad? I swallowed hard. Stable, I guess. They said the next 24 hours are critical. And you? You sound like crap. I leaned against the wall. She left. There was a pause. What do you mean, she left? She ended it. Said I'm holding her back. Jesus Christ. He let out a long breath. You're kidding me. I wish I was. That's insane, man. You've been breaking yourself just to stay afloat, and he stopped himself, his voice thick with anger. I'm coming over. Where are you? I'm fine. No, you're not. I said I'm fine. I snapped, then immediately regretted it. Sorry. I need some air. He sighed. Okay. But don't do anything stupid. I'll call you in an hour. When the line went dead, I shoved my hands into my jacket pockets and started walking. My feet carried me toward the hospital without thinking. The streets were nearly empty, and the city lights blurred through the thin mist. When I reached my father's room, the machines beeped steadily. He looked smaller somehow, friendlier. I pulled up a chair beside him. Hey, Dad, I whispered. It's me. He didn't respond, he hadn't for days, but talking to him was the only thing that kept me from falling apart. You'd probably tell me to toughen up, I said, forcing a smile. You'd say, son, people leave, but you don't stop living. I chuckled softly. Guess I'm learning that the hard way. I rubbed my temples and stared at the 4-line. She said I'm holding her back. Can you believe that? I was there for her through everything, her exams, her promotions, her bad days, and the moment life hits me, she runs. The silence in the room pressed against my chest. I looked at my father's still face and felt something inside me crack open. Maybe I was holding her back, I muttered. Maybe I was holding myself back. The door creaked, and a familiar voice broke the quiet. You're still here. I turned. Ethan stood there, holding 2 cups of coffee. You look like hell. Thanks for the compliment, I said weakly. He handed me a cup. Black, no sugar. I figured you'd need it. I took it, the warmth grounding me. You didn't have to come. He shrugged. You think I'd let you sit here alone after all that? Not happening. I stared at the floor. She didn't even cry, Ethan. Not a single tear. Like I meant nothing. She's not worth it, he said firmly. Some people only stay while the road's smooth. The moment it rains, they grab someone else's umbrella. I gave a short, bitter laugh. Poetic. I'm serious, he said. You've been through worse. You'll get through this too. I nodded, though my chest still burned. You ever wonder why people promise forever when they don't mean a damn word of it? All the time, he said. But promises don't define you. What you do after they break, that's what matters. I looked at him, his steady gaze anchoring me. What do I even do now? He thought for a moment. You survive. You get up tomorrow, eat something, go for a walk. You don't let her win by watching you fall apart. I sipped the coffee, the bitterness fitting perfectly with my mood. You make it sound easy. It's not, he admitted. But it's better than giving up. We sat in silence for a while. The steady beeping of my father's monitor was the only sound in the room. Finally, I said, you know what hurts most? She left when I needed her most. Not when things were fine. Not when life was easy. Ethan nodded slowly. That's who people really are, man, how they act when it's dark. I let out a long breath, feeling something shift inside me. She said I'm holding her back. Maybe she's right. Maybe it's time I stop holding on. Ethan leaned back. Now that sounds like the guy I know. I looked at my father again, his quiet breathing reminding me life still went on. People don't leave because they stop loving you, I said softly. They leave when loving you stops serving them. Ethan looked at me, then gave a faint smile. That's cold, but true. Yeah, I murmured. But maybe cold is what I need right now. He raised his cup. Then here's to starting over. I clinked mine against his, the sound sharp and small in the quiet room. For the first time that night, I didn't feel like I was falling apart, I felt like I was standing at the edge of something new. And as I sat there beside my father, the promise I made to myself settled deep in my chest, I will rise. Even if it kills me inside. The days blurred together after Ava left. I stopped counting them, they all tasted the same, cold coffee, quiet rooms, and the weight of what used to be. Ethan showed up one afternoon, knocking like he owned the place. Open up, man. I know you're in there. I groaned and pulled the door open. What do you want? To make sure you're still breathing, he said, stepping inside. You look like hell. Thanks, I muttered, collapsing onto the couch. He glanced at the cluttered table. You've been living off instant noodles. Food's food. Not when it smells like that. He wrinkled his nose. You can't keep doing this, you know. Doing what? I said flatly. Pretending she's the last woman on earth. I rubbed my temples. It's not about her anymore. He crossed his arms. Then what's it about? I hesitated. Everything. Losing my job, Dad in the hospital, and yeah, her. It's like life decided to kick me while I was already down. Ethan sat beside me. You can't control what happens, but you can control how long you stay broken. I stared at him. That sounds like something from a self-help book. He grinned faintly. Maybe. But it's still true. Silence filled the room. The kind that makes you realize how empty a place can sound when laughter used to live there. Finally, I said, you ever think about what makes someone walk away? Ethan frowned. Ava again. Just answer. He sighed. Fear, greed, selfishness. Pick your poison. I nodded slowly. She said I was holding her back. Maybe she was right. Don't start that crap. I'm serious, I said quietly. Maybe I was too dependent on her. Maybe I lost myself somewhere in loving her. He looked at me for a long moment. Or maybe she couldn't handle real life. People love easy things. You got hard to love because life got hard. His words sank deep, but I didn't respond. I didn't have the energy to. That night, after he left, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The shadows on the wall looked like cracks spreading across my life. I replayed her voice again and again, "You're holding me back." Was I? I whispered to the dark. Or were you just afraid to stay? My phone buzzed. Ethan again. Don't drown in your thoughts tonight. Go visit your dad tomorrow. I smiled faintly and set the phone down. He knew me too well. The next morning, I dragged myself to the hospital. The smell of antiseptic hit me like a wall, and my chest tightened. My father was asleep, his breathing shallow but steady. I sat beside him, taking his hand. "Hey, Dad," I said softly. "It's me again." The machines hummed around us. I wished he'd open his eyes and say something, anything. "You'd probably tell me to stop feeling sorry for myself," I continued. "You'd say, 'Get up, son. You're stronger than this.'" My throat burned. But I don't feel strong. I feel hollow. A nurse peeked in. "He's stable today," she said gently. "Thank you," I replied, forcing a smile. After she left, I leaned closer. "You know, Ava left the night I lost my job. Talk about timing, huh?" I laughed bitterly. Guess I wasn't part of her success story. I squeezed his hand. "But I'm gonna be okay. I promise." Walking out of that room, something in me shifted. The air outside was sharp and clean. For the first time in weeks, I noticed the sunlight on the pavement. Ethan called later. "You at the hospital?" "Yeah. He's hanging in there." "That's good." He paused. "You sound different." "Maybe I am." "What changed?" I thought for a moment. "Nothing, really. I just realized no one's coming to save me. Not Ava. Not anyone. If I want to survive this, I have to move." "That's the spirit," he said. "So what now?" "I don't know. Maybe I'll start applying for jobs again. Or maybe I'll just clean the damn house first." He chuckled. "One step at a time, man." "Yeah," I said, glancing at the fading sunlight through my window. "One step." After we hung up, I stood in the middle of my apartment. The silence didn't feel as heavy anymore. I picked up the empty cups, threw out the noodles, opened a window. The air felt lighter. As I looked out at the city lights, I said to myself, "I'm done being the man people walk over." The words sounded strange at first, but then they started to feel right. For weeks, I'd been waiting for someone to pull me out. But maybe this was how it worked: you crawl out on your own, bleeding, gasping, but alive. And for the first time since she left, I didn't feel broken. Just unfinished. I stared at the email for a full minute before I believed it was real. "Congratulations, we're excited to welcome you aboard." I exhaled, leaned back in my chair, and muttered, "Finally." Ethan grinned from across the table. "Told you something would come up. Tech startup, huh? Guess the universe still likes you." "Barely," I said, half smiling. "It's small. The pay's nothing special." "Doesn't matter," he replied. "It's a start. You needed this." I nodded. Maybe he was right. I'd spent weeks drifting between bitterness and exhaustion. Now, at least, I had a reason to get out of bed. The first week at the startup felt like walking on unsteady ground. The office was tiny, just a handful of desks, mismatched chairs, and the faint smell of burnt coffee. That's when I met Maya. She smiled politely when we shook hands. "You're the new guy." "I'm Maya. I handle the front-end side." "Yeah. I'm still figuring things out." "You and everyone else here," she said with a small laugh. "Welcome to chaos." Something about her calmness grounded me. She didn't talk much, but when she did, there was sincerity in her tone. During lunch, she glanced at my untouched sandwich. "Not hungry?" "Trying to quit living off vending machines," I muttered. "Good luck with that. The machine always wins." I laughed, surprised by how easily it came out. Days turned into weeks. Work became my refuge, lines of code, design meetings, late nights staring at screens that blurred into light. I wasn't healed, but I was breathing again. Then it happened. A Friday afternoon, bright and ordinary. I left the office early, phone buzzing with Ethan's text, "Drinks tonight?" I stepped onto the street, and there she was. Ava. My breath caught before I could stop it. She stood across the road, sunlight framing her like some cruel memory. Her hair was shorter, her posture confident, effortless. And next to her, holding her hand, was Ryan. Ryan. My ex-colleague. The guy who used to ask how I managed to balance work and love. The same one who once told me, "Man, you're lucky to have her." Now he had her. I froze, pretending to check my phone. My pulse thundered in my ears. She looked up. For a second, our eyes met. Her lips curved into a polite smile, the kind strangers share when paths cross by accident. Ryan said something that made her laugh, and the sound, God, that sound, was too familiar. I wanted to look away, but I didn't. Instead, I smiled. A small, tight smile that said, "You can't hurt me anymore." And then I walked past them. No words. No confrontation. Just silence and footsteps fading behind me. That night, Ethan dropped by unannounced. "You saw her, didn't you?" he asked, tossing me a beer. "Yeah." "How bad?" I cracked the can open. "Not bad." Weirdly, calm. He raised an eyebrow. "Calm? That's new. I thought I'd break apart again. But I didn't." I took a long sip. "She was with Ryan." Ethan winced. "Ouch." "Yeah. But it's fine." He leaned forward. "You sure about that?" I laughed, I said quietly. "Right after." Out of nowhere. Ethan frowned. "You laughed." I know it sounds crazy, but it felt like release. Like I finally got the joke. "What joke?" "That I ever thought she'd stay." He studied me for a moment, then smiled. "Guess you're healing, man." "Maybe," I said, staring at the ceiling. "Or maybe I just stopped expecting people to be more than they are." Work became lighter after that. I caught myself humming while typing, something I hadn't done in months. Maya noticed. "You're in a good mood today," she said over coffee. "Am I?" She nodded. "You didn't yell at your code once. That's progress." I grinned. "Guess I'm improving." "You should celebrate," she said. "There's a decent cafe nearby, cheap lattes, terrible music. Tempting combination." She laughed softly. "Come on, you could use a distraction." I hesitated. "All right. But if the music's bad, I'm blaming you." "Deal." We walked side by side, the evening breeze cool against my face. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel heavy. Inside the cafe, she asked, "So, why'd you join a startup? You seem like the stable corporate type." "Because I lost everything stable," I said with a shrug. "Figured I'd start from the ruins." She tilted her head. "That's oddly poetic." "Tragic poetry's kind of my brand," I said, half joking. She smiled. "Well, I hope you rewrite it someday." "Working on it," I murmured. That night, after she left, I walked home under the quiet hum of streetlights. The world felt different, still broken, but bearable. I stood by my window, watching the city flicker. Ava's face appeared in my mind again, but this time, it didn't hurt. It just existed. Like an old photograph, faded, untouchable. I whispered to myself, "You didn't destroy me, Ava." My voice didn't tremble. "You freed me." And for the first time, I believed it. I barely recognized the man in the mirror. The tired eyes were still there, but something behind them had changed, determination, maybe rage, maybe both. Ethan leaned against my kitchen counter, watching me knot my tie. "You're acting like you've got something to prove." "I do," I said. To myself. He smirked. "You're already working 12 hours a day. What's next? Sleeping at the office? If that's what it takes." He shook his head. "You're gonna burn out. Then I'll burn bright first." He sighed, but didn't push. Ethan knew this fire in me came from somewhere darker. At the office, the days blurred together, meetings, deadlines, new clients. I spoke less and delivered more. Failure wasn't an option anymore, it was fuel. One evening, while debugging a project, Maya appeared beside my desk. "You haven't moved in 3 hours," she said softly. "That's impressive or unhealthy, depending on perspective. I'll let you know which one when it's done." She smiled, setting a cup of coffee next to me. "Then at least drink this before you turn to dust." I stared at the steam curling upward. "You're dangerously good at timing." "I've worked with worse machines than you," she teased. I chuckled. "So I'm a machine now? Only the overworked kind." I took a sip. "Thanks, Maya." She tilted her head. "You don't have to thank me every time." "I do. People don't usually show up for me anymore." Her voice softened. "Maybe you've been looking in the wrong places." Something in her tone lingered with me long after she walked away. Weeks turned into months. My workload tripled, but so did my results. I led a product launch that should have failed, but it didn't. The CEO called me relentless. I took it as a compliment. Ethan texted me one night, "You're killing it, man. But don't lose yourself again." I stared at the message for a long moment before replying, "Maybe this is me now." He called immediately. "Don't say that. You're not a robot. You're still the guy who used to write music, remember? That guy didn't get anywhere. He lived, though." I sighed. "Ethan, I just want to build something solid this time." "Then don't build walls while you're at it." I didn't reply. At work, Maya started sitting near me during breaks. Sometimes we didn't talk at all, just shared silence that wasn't heavy anymore. One afternoon, she asked, "Why do you push yourself so hard?" I hesitated. "Because every failure still whispers her name." "Ava?" I nodded. "She doesn't deserve that kind of power." "She used to," I admitted. "Not anymore." Maya's eyes were steady. "Then stop proving her wrong. Start proving yourself right." Her words hit deeper than she probably realized. By the end of the quarter, I'd been promoted. New title, higher pay, same hunger. The office applauded when they announced it. I smiled politely, then went back to my desk. Maya found me later. "You could at least pretend to celebrate." "I'm not used to attention," I said. "You earned it." "Feels strange, that's all." She studied me. You're allowed to enjoy success, you know. I'll try, I said, smiling faintly. She nudged me playfully. That's progress. That night, I got home late. My apartment was dark except for the glow of my laptop. I opened it out of habit, emails, messages, updates. Then I saw it. Ava, I'm proud of you. My heart stopped for a second. Her name on the screen looked unreal, like a ghost knocking on the door of a house I no longer lived in. I stared at the message, hands frozen above the keyboard. Ethan's voice echoed in my head, don't build walls while you're at it. And then another voice, my own, whispered, some walls are worth keeping. I clicked the message again. No question, no apology, no explanation. Just 5 words, simple, deliberate. I'm proud of you. Proud of what? That I survived her. That I became everything she thought I couldn't. My hands trembled slightly, but my chest stayed calm. I leaned back, exhaled, and whispered, you're too late. I didn't reply. Instead, I closed the laptop, turned off the light, and sat in the silence I used to fear. The next morning, Maya noticed something different. You're quiet today, she said. I deleted a ghost last night. She blinked. That sounds poetic. Or tragic. Maybe both, I said. But it felt good. Closure. Freedom. She smiled gently. Then that's worth more than any promotion. I looked at her, realizing how much lighter she made the air around me. Maybe it is. She grinned. Coffee to celebrate your freedom? I nodded. Only if you're buying. Deal. As we walked toward the cafe, I felt something I hadn't felt in months, peace. Not the fragile kind that comes after tears, but the quiet kind that grows when you stop running from your past. I realized then, Ava's absence no longer defined me. My pain had turned into purpose, my loss into momentum. And maybe, just maybe, something real was beginning, slowly, softly, with someone who saw me not as broken, but rebuilding. I smiled to myself. The new me, I whispered. He's getting there. The envelope sat on my desk like a ghost I never invited. Cream-colored, neat handwriting, Ava's handwriting. I didn't have to open it to know what it was. When I finally did, the words blurred for a second. Ryan and Ava cordially invite you to celebrate their engagement. Ethan noticed the stillness in my hands. Tell me that's not what I think it is. It is. He exhaled sharply. You're not actually thinking of going, are you? I am. Why? Because running from ghosts doesn't make them disappear. He frowned. You don't owe them anything. I know, I said quietly. But I owe myself closure. The night of the party, I stood in front of the mirror for too long. The tie looked fine, the shirt fit well. But the man wearing them, he was calmer now. Stronger. Ethan drove me there despite his protests. If this turns ugly, we're leaving, he warned. It won't, I said. I'm not here to fight. The hotel lobby was a sea of light and laughter. Crystal chandeliers, music, champagne glasses clinking. Everything screamed perfection. And then I saw her. Ava stood across the room in a silver dress, radiant, flawless, like she always wanted to be seen. For a second, my chest tightened. Then, it loosened just as quickly. She looked up, froze. Her smile faltered mid-conversation. Ryan turned to follow her gaze, smirked when he saw me. I walked over slowly, not with anger, but with purpose. Congratulations, I said, keeping my tone even. You both look happy. Ava blinked, her voice barely above a whisper. You came. I did. Ryan extended his hand, overly confident. Didn't expect to see you here, man. Brave move. I shook his hand briefly. I don't do fear anymore. He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. Well, I guess everyone moves on differently. Ava tried to fill the silence. I heard about your promotion. You're doing well. I am, I said simply. Thank you. Her eyes lingered on me, like she wanted to say something else. But Ryan's arm slipped possessively around her waist. We're glad you came, he said. Aren't we, babe? She nodded stiffly. Yes. Of course. I smiled politely. I'll let you enjoy your night. I turned and walked toward the bar. Ethan joined me a minute later, whispering, You good? I'm fine, I said, sipping water. It's strange, though. I thought seeing her again would hurt. And it doesn't? No, I said, surprised by the truth. It just feels empty. He grinned faintly. That's peace, my friend. Maybe it was. An hour later, while I was getting ready to leave, Ryan appeared again. He leaned against the wall beside me, smirking like he owned the air around us. Can I ask something? He said. Go ahead. Why come at all? You must have known it'd sting. I looked at him. It doesn't. He chuckled. You can say that all you want, but you'll never have what we have. His words hung there, sharp and deliberate. I smiled slightly. You're right. He blinked. What? I'll never have what you have, I said calmly. Because I have peace. His smirk vanished. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Then he muttered, You always had a way with words. And you always needed them to feel taller. He stiffened, then forced a laugh. Enjoy your night, philosopher. I just nodded. You too. As I walked past the ballroom, Ava caught my arm. Wait. I stopped. Yeah. Her voice trembled. You've changed. I had to. Her eyes glistened. You really don't hate me? I met her gaze. I did. For a while. But hate's just another kind of chain. I cut mine. She swallowed hard. Ryan doesn't understand you. That's okay, I said gently. He doesn't need to. I thought you'd never forgive me. I didn't say I forgave you, I replied softly. I just stopped bleeding over what's already healed. Her breath hitched. You make it sound easy. It wasn't, I said. But it was worth it. For a moment, silence stretched between us. The music faded in the background. She whispered, You really moved on, didn't you? I smiled faintly. Yeah. I think I did. Then I walked away. Outside, the night air felt colder but lighter. Ethan was waiting by the car, arms crossed. Well? He asked. I congratulated them, I said. Had a drink, survived a conversation with a narcissist, and didn't punch anyone. I'd call that progress. He laughed. Proud of you, man. I looked up at the sky. You know what's funny? For the first time in a long time, I actually am too. He handed me the car keys. Then let's go before someone ruins it. I smiled, started the engine, and drove off, leaving the noise, the lights, and the past behind. And as the city blurred by, I whispered to myself, Peace looks good on me. The night sky glittered above the city, a reflection of everything I'd built from the ashes of my past. My name was now attached to something real, something that thrived because I didn't give up. My startup had grown faster than I'd ever imagined. Success tasted clean, not sweet. It was calm, measured, peaceful. Man, you're officially impossible to reach, Ethan laughed as he dropped into the chair across my office desk. Your phone rings more than a politician's before election day. I smiled, closing my laptop. Occupational hazard. Growth means chaos. Growth means you finally proved every idiot wrong, he said, grinning. Including Ryan. I didn't respond. The name still carried a faint echo, though it no longer hurt. Ethan leaned forward. You heard, right? His company went under last month. Whole thing collapsed. Yeah, I said quietly. I heard. He studied my face. No satisfaction. No revenge speech. I don't need one, I said. The world has a funny way of balancing itself. He nodded, impressed. You've changed, man. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, and froze. Ava. Ethan's grin faded. You're kidding. I turned the phone around. She's calling. Don't answer, he said quickly. You know that kind of ghost isn't good for you. The phone kept vibrating, the name glowing like a ghost from another life. Against my better judgment, I swiped to accept. Hello. There was a silence, soft but trembling. Then, hi, it's me. I leaned back, my voice steady. Yeah. I can see that. I know this is sudden, she whispered. But can we talk? Please. I didn't answer immediately. Part of me wanted to hang up. Another part wanted to look her in the eye one last time, to close that door for good. Where? I asked. There was a pause. Café Verde. Tomorrow, 6. Fine. I ended the call. Ethan stared at me like I'd lost my mind. You're really doing this? I just want closure, I said. Or trouble, he muttered. Maya's voice came later that evening when I mentioned it to her. You don't owe her anything, she said softly. But if you go, don't go to remember. Go to let go. Her words stayed with me through the night. The next day, I arrived early. The cafe was quiet, soft lights, low music, the smell of roasted beans. I took a seat in the corner, where I could see everything without being seen first. 5 minutes later, she walked in. Ava. Her hair was shorter, her face thinner, but the sadness in her eyes was new. She spotted me, hesitated, then walked over. Hi, she said, almost in a whisper. I gestured to the seat. Sit. For a while, we just sat there, the air thick with unspoken history. You look different, she said finally. Life tends to do that, I replied. I've kept up with your company, she continued. You've done incredible things. I gave a small nod. It's been a good year. Her eyes glistened. I'm happy for you. The silence after that felt longer than a year. Then she said, Ryan and we're not together anymore. I looked at her, unmoved. I heard. She fidgeted with her coffee cup. He changed. Or maybe he was always that way. The lies, the pride, the debt, it all caught up. When things fell apart, he blamed me for everything. I said nothing. Just listened. She looked up, voice trembling. I made a mistake, you know. I thought I wanted stability. Security. But I lost something real when I walked away from you. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. I really am. I let her words hang in the air, then leaned back. Do you remember what you told me the night you left? Her lips parted, but no sound came. You said I wasn't enough, I reminded her quietly. That love couldn't pay bills or build futures. I know, she whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. I was wrong. I sighed. Maybe. But forgiveness isn't a word. It's a choice, and it's earned. I don't expect you to take me back, she said quickly. I wanted you to know I see it now. What you were worth. I studied her, not with anger, but with distance. Ava, the man you knew doesn't exist anymore. He burned away with the pain. What's left, what I am now, is someone who finally understands peace. She nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. I guess I came here hoping for a second chance. There's no second chance, I said gently. Only a lesson. She looked down. You really don't hate me? No, I said, standing up. Hate takes energy. I'd rather spend mine living. Her lips trembled. You've changed. I smiled faintly. That was the point. As I left the cafe, the night air felt cleaner, lighter. My phone buzzed, Ethan again. Well, he asked when I answered. You good? Yeah, I said, watching the city lights stretch out like possibilities. Better than ever. Maya's message came right after, proud of you. You faced the storm and didn't drown. I smiled. For the first time, it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about being free. And as I walked into the night, I finally understood, sometimes, the best revenge is peace. The night after meeting Ava, I sat alone in my apartment, the city lights flickering through the window like quiet witnesses. For the first time, I didn't feel anger or regret, just stillness. The kind that comes after a storm. Ethan called. So. You finally buried the ghost. I smiled faintly. Yeah. Turns out, she wasn't the villain I made her out to be. He laughed. You're saying that now? You used to curse her name like she stole your lungs. I guess pain has a purpose, I said. She broke me, sure, but she also forced me to rebuild. Without that, I wouldn't be who I am. That's mature, he said teasingly. I almost don't recognize you. Good, I replied. The old me wouldn't recognize me either. There was a pause. So what now? Closure complete, ego detoxed. I chuckled. Now. I live. The next morning, Maya dropped by the office with coffee. You didn't sleep, she said, studying my face. Didn't need to, I said. Some nights aren't for rest, they're for clarity. She smiled. So you saw her? Yeah. And? I thanked her. Her brows rose. You thanked her? Yeah, I said, taking a sip. Because if she hadn't left, I'd still be half of a man, trying to prove my worth to someone who couldn't see it. She leaned on the desk. That's, surprisingly wise. I've had good company lately, I said, glancing at her. She laughed softly. Flattery before 10 a.m. Dangerous habit. Only when it's true. She handed me a folder. Your investors are thrilled. We're expanding to 2 new cities. I nodded, but my focus drifted to her smile, calm, warm, grounding. You ever think about how strange it is? I asked. What? How peace sneaks up on you when you stop chasing it. Her expression softened. Maybe peace isn't found, she said. Maybe it's what's left when the noise fades. I didn't respond. I just smiled. She always had a way of saying what I couldn't. That evening, I visited my father. He was sitting in the garden, reading, his face brighter than I'd seen in years. Look who finally remembers his old man, he teased as I walked in. I bring good news, I said. The doctors say your heart's stronger. He closed his book, smiling. And yours? I chuckled. Mine's finally steady too. He studied me carefully. Something's changed. Everything, I said. I let go. He nodded slowly. Of her? Of the anger, I replied. The hate, the blame, the need to prove something. She wasn't my enemy, Dad. She was my lesson. He leaned back. Lessons hurt more than enemies do. They do, I said quietly. But they also heal better. He looked proud. I worried, you know. That you'd become cold. I did, for a while, I admitted. But then I realized strength isn't about building walls. It's about keeping your heart open without letting it be destroyed. He smiled gently. Your mother used to say that. I laughed. Guess I finally listened. We sat there in silence for a while, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and gold. Then he said something that caught me off guard. I'm proud of the man you've become. I froze, blinking against the warmth that rose in my chest. You've never said that before. I was saving it for when you truly deserved it, he said, eyes glinting. Guess it took a little heartbreak to earn it, I said softly. He chuckled. Heartbreak's the best teacher, if you survive the class. When I left his house, Maya called. You sound different, she said as soon as I picked up. Do I? Yeah. Like you're finally breathing right. I laughed. Maybe I am. So, what did you learn from all this? She asked. That pain isn't punishment, I said. It's preparation. It teaches you who you are, what you value, and what you'll never settle for again. She went quiet for a moment. That's beautiful. Maybe. But it's true, I said. I don't hate her anymore. I don't love her either. I just thank her. For what? For showing me what love shouldn't feel like. Maya's voice softened. And what does it feel like now? Like peace, I said. Like you. There was a pause, one that spoke louder than words. I'm glad you're healing, she said finally. I'm not healing, I replied. I'm healed. We didn't need to say more. Sometimes silence says everything. As I drove home that night, the city lights blurred past my window, but my thoughts were clear. Pain had sculpted me, not scarred me. Every betrayal, every fall, every lonely night, it all led here. To peace. To purpose. To gratitude. Ava was never my villain. She was my teacher. And I had finally learned the lesson. The lights were blinding. Cameras flashed, people clapped, and my name echoed through the hall like music I'd waited years to hear. Ladies and gentlemen, the host said, our entrepreneur of the year. I stepped onto the stage. Applause roared, but I barely heard it. My palms were steady, my breath calm. I took the award, smiled for the cameras, and when I looked up, there she was. Ava. Front row. Red dress. Eyes glistening. For a second, the noise around me faded. All I saw was her face, the same face that once told me I wasn't enough. But now, she looked small, lost in a sea of celebration that no longer belonged to her. I didn't flinch. I didn't falter. I smiled and raised the trophy. When the applause died down, I spoke into the mic. This isn't about success, I said. It's about survival. About losing everything and still choosing to rise. I owe this not to those who stayed, but to those who left. Because sometimes, their absence becomes your greatest motivation. A few people murmured in agreement. Some clapped louder. I saw Maya's face in the crowd, soft smile, eyes gleaming with quiet pride. After the ceremony, Ethan found me backstage. You did it, man. You actually did it. I laughed, shaking his hand. Feels strange, doesn't it? Strange, he said. You just outgrew your past right in front of her. I shrugged. Maybe I didn't outgrow her. Maybe I just stopped shrinking to fit her version of me. He grinned. That's deep. You practicing that line? I chuckled. Nah. It just came naturally. He nudged my shoulder. Maya's waiting for you. I turned. She stood a few feet away, holding 2 glasses of champagne. Congratulations, she said softly. Thank you, I replied. Couldn't have done it without you. You could've, she said. You just needed someone to remind you who you were. I raised a brow. And who's that? Her smile widened. A man who didn't let heartbreak define him. I clinked my glass against hers. To moving forward. To never looking back, she said. We drank. I felt the warmth spread through me, not from the champagne, but from peace. Real, lasting peace. A few moments later, I felt a presence behind me. I turned, and there she was again. Ava. Hi, she said softly. I looked at her, calm. Hi. Congratulations, she whispered. You were incredible. Thank you, I said simply. She hesitated, eyes darting to the floor. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. I know, I replied. You told me that once before. She winced. I mean it this time. I believe you, I said. But I don't need it anymore. Her lip trembled. You've changed. I had to, I said. Pain demanded it. She nodded slowly. You look happy. I am. A pause. Is it her? I smiled faintly. It's peace. She looked down. I'm glad you found it. I hope you do too, I said sincerely. For a moment, she looked like she might cry. But instead, she whispered, goodbye. Goodbye, Ava. She turned and disappeared into the crowd, like a chapter finally closing itself. Ethan appeared beside me again. That looked intense. It wasn't, I said. It was closure. He grinned. Took you long enough. I smiled. Some stories need time to end right. Maya walked up, curious. Everything okay? Perfect, I said. Just said goodbye to the past. She touched my arm. Then let's celebrate the present. As we stepped outside, the night air hit my face, cool, gentle, alive. Reporters shouted my name, cameras flashed again, but all I saw was Maya's smile under the streetlight. Feels surreal, doesn't it? She asked. It does, I said. But it also feels earned. She squeezed my hand. You became everything they said you couldn't. I looked at the trophy, then back at her. And everything I was meant to. For a long moment, we just stood there, two souls who'd found peace, not through revenge, but through growth. The world clapped for my success, but my heart whispered something quieter, something truer. Thank you for walking away. Because without losing her, I would have never found myself.